Thank you for joining us. First, I would like to thank all our supporters and our kind people that send us money to help our family in need, especially Barbara from Poland. I really appreciate it. It really touched the bottom of my heart, and we are able to raise a nice amount of money, not enough, but not necessarily money to the family, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver the funds in the near future, maybe even this week. If you want to sponsor or donate to the Yeshiva, you can do so also through our PayPal. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions and so on and so forth, you can reach us as rabbigaon@gmail.com. Last week we read the two parashiyot Behar Bechukotai. So from all these parashot of the Torah, Parashat Behar is the most economically driven parasha. Some of the mitzvot that are mentioned in the Torah, including in what we call Ben Adam Bechavero and so on and so forth. But here, if you look carefully, you might be able to identify a great economic plan which really has to do with our daily order, whether it's social, whether it's political. I think it's quite relevant to what we're going through nowadays. The beginning of the parasha, we have the issue of Shemitah. Shemitah is the sabbatical year in which we're supposed to leave the land, don't plant anything, we're allowed to maintain, and so on and so forth. And the pasuk says, "Ki tavou el haaretz asher ani noten lachem," when you reach the land in which I give you, not the United Nations, I give you, v'shavta haaretz Shabbat leHashem, the land would rest 7 days to God, shesh shanim tizra, tizmor, and so on and so forth, and on the 7th year, Shabbat Shabbaton yeh haaretz, Shabbat leHashem, that's what it's going to be. Shemitah, as we said last time, is hashmata, means vitur, means giving up, letting go, not working the land at all throughout this year. In other words, it's the Shabbat, as far as we have the Shabbat for ourselves, the Shabbat for the land as well. And both of them, as we spoke last week, there is a great resemblance between the Shemitah and the Shabbat in concepts in which you're supposed to let go, and you really dedicate some time for inner contemplation and really stop the race. As once I heard a song, there is the horse race, there is the dog race, there is the human race, but it's a disgrace. The human race, it's a disgrace to us because something happens to us when we are in that rat race. And that time, whether it's Shabbat or Shemitah, was supposed to be dedicated to complete spiritual maintenance of your soul. And we'll see really Be'ezrat Hashem how it goes. So that time is the most central in the life of many people. It is sanctification of what we call, it's just the opposite. What we call, like today, everything is what is holy? Money. What is important? Collecting merchandise. That is the time that we're here, and this is not really. It's not so good because during our period of time, especially our period of time, since we became a consumer society, that the main goal of the lives of many people, it is collecting more money and more money and more money. I'm going to tell you something. When I started collecting money for this family, since before Purim, I think, I saw something that was, for me, is a tremendous phenomenon. The people who don't have a lot of money, the regular guys who don't have a lot of money, for them it's much easier to give, and they give more money than those who have a lot of money. And I think the logic behind it is, well, the person who worked and put all his effort into collecting the money says, I'm not giving this up. He has a lot, but I'm not giving this up. The one who doesn't have a lot of money says, listen, I don't have it, I never have, I'm not going to have it. Might as well give it, put it to good use. And it's amazing to me when I told people, listen, remember, we're collecting this. There's some people, I gave them the envelope, but all of a sudden I see that, based on the makeup, there's 100 bills inside and so on and so forth. Where, I went to some rich people to try to help them out, and they said, well, how long is it going to be like this? You're going to give me a whole philosophical argument. I don't need your philosophical argument, just help out. Thank you for the advice, but if you want me to, if you want to know how to run the business, I can run it better than you. So just right now, open your wallet and give me something for this family. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So why? Because today it's all about how much money you have and how much possessions you have. By the way, with all the possessions that you're going to collect throughout your life, there's going to come a time that you're going to die. And what's going to happen is about 99% of what you have, your kids are going to take in a dumpster and throw it away. Maybe one or two things they will keep for themselves. So I don't understand what's this big excitement that we have to collect things and collect things and collect things and collect things. What's the point? Well, you're crazy. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like those blankets of children, they hold a little blanket, a security blanket that they hold. I need more stuff. I need more stuff. What do you need it for? Oh, I want to buy myself a violin. Why do you want to buy a violin? You want to be Isaac Stern? No, but one day I'm going to retire. I guess I'm going to retire if you don't have arthritis. Buy yourself a violin and play it. Meanwhile, you can use it for firewood. Make nice firewood. Burn quickly. Anyway, huh?
Like Bowman fire.
Like Bowman fire. Yeah, it's terrific. Make for shish kebab, whatever. It just doesn't make sense. And you'll see why. So here comes a refreshment in terms of like a new idea of what is the proper ratio and how we're going to distinguish between ikar and tafel. What's important is not what important. And as we said many times, these halachot of ikar and tafel, what is the main important thing and what is not, sometimes I found it to be the most difficult halachot for people to deal with. Why? Because they don't know really what's important in life. Throughout their lives, they never paid attention to what's important now. So if you give somebody an ice cream in a cone, they're debating until the ice cream melts, which bracha should they say, instead of like going, okay, this is the main thing, that's why I'm having it, say she'akol, and you put that. To the Shulchan Aruch, it's very simple. For us, it's like we can't even make a decision about that. So nevertheless, if we cannot make a decision to distinguish between what's important and what's not important in life, in terms of an ice cream cone, how you want to make a decision what's important in your own life? People just can't do it. And therefore you go ahead and you waste your life. Very simple. What is to distinguish between a goal and the tools to reach the goal? For example, money is not a goal. Money is an instrument. Money is a tool to reach a target in which you want. Money is not a goal, because if your goal is money, you're never going to reach your goal. And I don't think anybody doesn't want to live life without reaching a goal. You want to reach something in your life. Which, by the way, by Torah is just the complete opposite. Everything is good until you come to learn Torah, and I'm going to show you why. In the 15th century in Spain, there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Yitzchak Arama. He wrote a sefer, a very important sefer. It's called Akedat Yitzchak. And one of the things he brought there is reasons for Shemitah. And it says one of the reasons that we keep Shemitah is to reveal our ears and to awaken our heart, to open blind eyes which are immersed with the imaginary world in which we created around us. Lies, nothingness. You go about your life and all you do is lie to yourself. It's all fantasies that you create. Even the way you're going to pick up your soulmate is beginning of fantasy. You're going to pick up the person who fits your fantasy the most. Not necessarily that's what you want. Life is not a Walt Disney production, my dear friends. There are important guidelines of who you should pick up as your soulmate. Eshet chayil mi'imtza, woman of accomplishment. Ve'rachok mi'penim michra. That her intention is not on jewels and shenanigans like that. If you want to buy a buyer, but that's not what she lives for. Sheker achen vehevel hayofi, a lie of beauty, and the nonsense of looks. What is important? Isha yirat Hashem. If you're going to pick up your spouse based on your fantasy, one day you're going to get up, and your fantasy is going to be gone. You turn to look, and it was gone. And what will happen to you? Your life will be a glimpse that you catch from the corner of your eyes. No more than that. And it says, and they sell their souls, letzmitut, for eternity. La'avod et ha'adama, to work the adama, the land, avodat adama, like a farmer, avodat masa, like a couple of oxen, of mules. That's where he came from, to set the prisoners free. You have the time to think. That's why it's important to keep Shabbat. Shabbat is a time for contemplation. But we don't want to look at what we are doing wrong. That's why we don't like to keep Shabbat. So you wait for Shabbat. Oh my goodness, Shabbat, when is it over? Summer. Summer, Shabbat is so long. It's the same 25 hours. If Shabbat starts at 8, it ends up at 9. If Shabbat starts at 4, it ends at 5. That's the way it works. What's the problem here? The problem is what Shabbat symbolizes you. Shabbat symbolizes freedom. You don't want to be free. You want to be slave. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. We are slaves. And it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give us candles and lights that will shine our way and open and make windows that we can see the world outside. And it says, and He gave us guidelines throughout our lives. Days, Shabbat, Shemitah every 7 years. If you live long enough, every 50 years you have your veil. These are points in which you're supposed to reevaluate yourself. Like what they call the 7-year blues. When married couples reach this plateau, they've been married for 7 years, all of a sudden it's like, what in the world I'm doing with a person like that? What a guy like me doing with a girl like you? It's the 7-year blues. So you don't come to that. Every week, you check yourself. Create a points of reference along the way so you won't get lost. If you are in a forest and you're lost, one way for you to do is tie ribbons. See the next tree around, walk towards it. Then you identify another tree, work towards it. Because before you know Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, walk in a circle. Winnie and Tigger, remember them? Or whoever it was Winnie. No, it was a rabbit. Piglet. Well, what are those guys? Rabbit, I think, right? And Tigger. The wonderful thing about tigers are a wonderful thing, right? They bounce, right? The wonderful thing about tigers, that I'm the only one. You know how many times I watched Tigger? My kid used to love it. I liked it too. It's a lot of musa to learn in Tigger, especially Eeyore. Each and every one of us has an Eeyore. Why me? Why me? Right, Eeyore? I mean, and why is that? Why is Eeyore dafka the chamor? Chamor mishon chomer, materialistic. All he cares about is kol kasheli. Life is hard. Life is hard, but it's a big party. Let me tell you that. Life is hard, but it's a big party. And it says, and after the 7 cycles of Shemitah, comes the 50th year, which is the Jubilee, and then you would sanctify it, and you would set everybody free. Yovel tiyeh lachem, and everybody goes back to where he came from, and so on and so forth. So the biblical idea behind it gives you a certain limitation to how much you could accumulate over a certain period of time. Let's say you are a landmonger. You want more land and more land and more land. You're like Ted Turner. He has like, I don't know, thousands, millions of acres he has, this guy. He's the biggest landowner in the United States. He has more land than the whole state of Israel. But it comes to the Habibi, 50 years, give it back to everybody. Give it back to the Indians, give it back to this one, give it back to the people. That's it, you're talking, give it back. There's a limit to how much you're going to take away, how much you're going to hold possession within yourself. So the slaves in that year, the slaves are being set free, and everybody starts again, all over again, a big race to the $1 million, right? Money again, all over. We can start again, fresh. Today I spoke with a man who told me something very, very wise. He said, it says on my forehead that I'm not going to be rich. And he says, you know what, it's a great thing. I said to him, why? And he said, because it gives me a chance to get up every morning and to try to hustle again, to be active, to try to do things so I can get up in the morning. I'm excited for the next day. I'm looking forward for the next day because here another chance. I have to be in action all the time. He says, if I was a wealthy man, all I'm going to be worried about that I'm going to die. So therefore I'll be afraid of getting up. And I said to him, that's a wonderful thing. You know who said it, right? You don't know who said it? They're talking to you. Your dad. Yeah, it's like, I tell you the truth, it's like the nicest thing I heard the whole entire day. Make me think. So in Hebrew you have to try to squeeze it. In Hebrew we have, and some Chachamim actually distinguish between what we call chofesh, freedom, and dror. Dror is something else. Chofesh is, what we call, let's call it a break. Chofesh is like more like a break. I'm chofshi, which is basically going to be from avdut, slavery, melacha, work, and so on and so forth. Dror is freedom from human enslavement, oppression, from having others masters on you. For 1,000 years, we don't keep Yovel anymore. But the idea is more relevant now than ever, which is Chirut HaRuach, freedom of the mind, of the intellect, which is the most important ingredient from being completely, or being free of complete or totalitarian enslavement. If you want to enslave somebody completely, control the mind. If you want to give somebody freedom, teach them how to set their mind free. I have news for you. Most of us are completely enslaved in their mind. They're not free thinkers. I'm going to tell you that. We start to talk a little bit in the morning. To most of you, never stop one time in your life and question whether the way you perceive the world is really how the world is. Most of the time, society told you how the world is, and therefore you're never able to break. Maybe things are not like that. Who told you that the way you see the world is the way the world really is? According to the word outside, there's no such thing here as a soul, a human soul. And yet you all know that you have one. That's why I don't like to tell you what's my view on this or what's my view on that. I would try to encourage you, or try to invigorate your thinking, because from that point on, everything that I'll tell you, you would see things from my point of view. And that's not good enough. What's the difference between my point of view or the next guy around? My question to you is, what's your point of view? So if you don't have tools, let's try to acquire tools and skills to become free. It says we should pay attention to the Torah says, it calls us, give us a command, likro dror ba'aretz, to call freedom in the land. Lo dror la'aretz, to the land. Freedom in the land. The land is already free on Shemitah. Now it's your turn to free the human spirit. V'karatem dror ba'aretz. People have to be free. It does not mean that you should not be productive and be involved in creating and so on and so forth. On the contrary. But the way to success and the way to economic success begins with your ability to think free. And your ability not to be enslaved to materialistic things. If your success is only going to be determined by materialistic measures, you're not going to be successful. Sometimes you open a business at the beginning, you don't make money. But you need to be there and you need to create and go on and on and on. Then you're going to become successful. You can't measure success over a year. You can measure success over 2 years. Come after 50 years, we'll talk. That's why most people cannot be bosses. They can't own their own company. They need to work for somebody else because they can't think free. Those who are entrepreneurs and are successful are those who are able to be visionaries, to see things, to see what will be, how they're going to go about it. And they don't get discouraged by little road bumps that they have on the road. They might even try to jump a little open, a gap in the road. Give enough speed, I'll jump, it'll go be okay. That's the difference between those who are successful entrepreneurs and those who fail. Those who want security, who are enslaved, only able to think like that. And in order to do so, you need to have a lot of knowledge. How to reach this spiritual freedom, which eventually is going to give you economic freedom. That's why America was successful in terms of the economy in America. American economy was successful because, first of all, America gave people freedom. When America will stop giving people freedom, the economy will go bonkers. The more regulations, the more what the government will tell me what to do, whether I'm allowed to drink 16 ounces or 14.5 ounces, it all starts with that. It's not government's business to tell me what to put in my body. As long as I have my medical insurance, what do you care? As far as I'm concerned, I can drink a whole bottle of whiskey. So what do you care? I have insurance. I paid for it. It's not your business. It's not about your well-being. It's about taking your freedom from you. That knowledge would be found in the intellectual decision in each and every one of us. Once we're going to make this calculated decision, we say, I need to know more. It's not enough that I keep Shabbat. I want to know more. I want to do things better. And it starts from the smallest details which surround us. For example, compare prices. You go, you want to see an item. Is Macy's cheaper than Bloomingdale's? Is it cheaper than Lord & Taylor? Or compare the prices. Knowledge that I can say, oh, this store is cheaper. I'm going to go there. That's knowledge. And because you were thinking, I want to know. To prevent yourself from unnecessary expenses. Before you buy something, you need to think, do I really need that? What do I need it for? What do I need it for? How many pairs of shoes do I need? How many pairs of pants do I need? How many pairs of, I don't know, whatever, coats and gloves and everything else? I don't need it, so why am I buying it? This is how I'm practicing my self-control, by showing that I can spend. Why would you practice your self-control by showing how much you don't spend? You need to be able to read your bank statements. How many of you know how to read your bank statements? How many of you know how to read your slip that you get from your employer? Right? Try not to fall into the trap of discounts, sales. It's a trap. You don't believe me? Go, somewhere in the city, 7th Avenue. Every time they have liquidation sale, clearance sales. They have clearance sales for 50 years. Yeah, and then we come to what we said last week in terms of exactable, when you have your friend falling. You don't wait for him to fall. You help him before. According to the Rambam, according to Chachamim, it's the highest level. It's the highest level of tzedakah. You give him a job so he won't be dependent on your handouts. You want to help somebody? Get him a job. So he won't be dependent on you. You want to be free? Go get a job. Don't wait for your government to give you handouts. Because then it's all gone. Let's take a break. Continue this later.